Staff, are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Alrighty. Good morning, Tati. Appreciate you coordinating the call. I know that we're being live streamed at the request of our MMDR families. So I want to thank everybody for joining our call. We meet here every Tuesday at 8:30 as the action part of our task force. And so, Tatiana, can you just let me know, are you going to be able to share your screen for today's call, or would you like me to share my screen?
I can share my screen. Just let me know what I need to share and I'll get it ready right now.
Okay, so I know that our goal was to have an agenda and we have some action items, and I'm not sure if you were able to find the task force, what we call like our logic model or what we sent into the Dana action plan, but I'd like to share a visual with the community members who will be able to watch this recording in the future.
Yes, I do have the action plan. I believe Laureen sent me that sometimes last week, so let me pull it up right now.
Okay, perfect. And so for everybody else on the call, let's see, we're gonna take off all of the bots. Apologize. It looks like we have Andrea Yate, Miss Lori Cadwell, Alarina Nakai, thank you, Shamayaja, for joining the call. Miss Twyla from Navajo Technical University, and Miss Sinaba Jim with Missing and Murdered and Their Relatives Coalition. Colby, can you Oh, with Department of Behavioral Health. All right. Thank you for joining us, Kobe. What we do as a task force is we have a shared document. So I'm going to share that on our screen so that you have an idea of the information that we've been pulling together. And hopefully there's areas that the Department of Health, their behavioral and mental health services can help in assisting our MMDR families. Usually on our Tuesday call, we would request an update from Detective Begay with Navajo Nation Missing Persons Unit, but Detective Begay has indicated that her focus in the short term is on the families and their cases. So we'll have some time at the end to discuss some of the current alerts that were um, sent out via text, and actually the lack of texts that are coming out. So we'll have to problem solve that issue. But for everyone who's on the call and able to see, this is okay. So this is this is for our other subcommittee, the Sexual Assault Prevention Subcommittee. Let me check on my end. But if you want to pull out, oh, there you go. Let's use that for right now, Tatiana, and then I will look to see if I have that fully that logic model for this subcommittee, the missing and murdered and their relatives. Okay, so here we go with the Dana action plan. We went over this a few weeks ago, but it's good for everyone on the call to know that by statute, by law, there was a creation of the Dana action plan, um, or by resolution, I should say. There was the development of the Dana action plan, and that is an initiative by the three branches, legislative, judicial, and executive, to work together and address different um, community monsters that are plaguing our modern monsters that are plaguing our community. So there was some community surveys that went out, and areas of focus were violence prevention, suicide ideation prevention, substance abuse prevention, and our work here at the Missing and Murdered and Their Relatives. Uh, Another component that has been created in these discussions, we've been coming together for at least the last 5 years, is I think they're calling it capacity building or the education part, and the data. So we're all collectively working together to gather Navajo Nation data and have an opportunity to fund and get some analysis of that data. And that's being headed up by our Navajo Nation Epidemiology Center, which is a partner here with our MMDR task force. So, what the Net Action Plan has incorporated, or the Standing Committee has incorporated, some of these components called theories of change. And so our goal is to improve data collection, coordination between agencies, and community outreach will reduce the number of missing and murdered Dene relatives and enhance investigations. I always have to go back and forth to make sure that the Dene Action Plan evaluators and committee are consistent with the language that we use, because it's not individuals, as we are, a community and relatives. So the population of focus are families of the missing persons, victims of gender-based violence, and law enforcement agencies. So I just want to go over this is a way that the evaluators, the Dene Action Plan evaluators, requested this task force to pull together some of their information. It's not necessarily how we gather our information, but working with our partners, this is what we've developed. So some of the strengths that we can build on is we do have an existing task force. We're community driven. We have awareness programs. There's a cultural emphasis on family and kinship. Some of our major challenges to overcome and the work that we'll do collectively together is the poor data collection, insufficient law enforcement collaboration, human trafficking, and gender-based violence. So what are some of the strategies as a task force that we've collectively agreed on? So we have 7 areas. So policy and advocacy, advise the Navajo Nation leadership on MMDR issues, and that's done by biannual report to Navajo Nation leadership that's provided to the Navajo Nation Council. They approve the report, and then that report is disseminated to Navajo Nation leadership. Family support, provide a MMDR toolkit, victim advocacy, and transitional housing. That component will be headed by our community representative, Salatsa Jim, Vanji, and Zanapa. 3, data and solutions, establish a nonprofit data institute to document cases, analyze trends, and develop prevention strategies. That's headed up by Shanella Laurel, myself, Dr. Gonzalez and Twyla. Andrea and Vanji and others do join the call and help support with this initiative. Number 4 is infrastructure, advocate for federal, state, and tribal funding to enhance judicial data tracking, intercoordinated information systems, and training. I would say I head up that specific initiative and trying to work with our Division of Public Safety and to complete the tribal community response plan so that everyone has a clear understanding about this intercoordinated information systems. 5 is interagency collaboration, strengthen partnership with law enforcement, community, and legislators. That's also where we have a good working relationship with our legislators at the Navajo Nation, the different states, our congressional leadership. What we need to focus in is the partnership with law enforcement. So we need to identify someone on this task force who will help strengthen that partnership. By resolution, we have Navajo Nation Public Safety on as a task force member. And so we do have the current division director, Henderson, who is assigned to the task force, who could help with that area. And community is always, going to the families, going to the Navajo Nation programs on how they partner with community. 6 is data sharing, develop data sharing agreements to improve case resolution and coordination. As I mentioned, that is going to be partnered with our Navajo Nation Epidemiology Center, and how that will those partnerships will be enhanced with law enforcement agreements. I have seen a handful of mutual aid agreements approved at the oversight at Law and Order Committee. So our next step would be, now that there's these mutual aid agreements that are officially recognized, what's going to be the discussion in terms of data sharing and what that agreement would look like. 7 is sustainability. Develop and implement a 5-year sustainability plan to ensure ongoing funding, staffing, and operation uh, continuity for the task force. So that's something that in the budget world, I was leading that initiative, and Tatiana and Twyla were going to assist by understanding what that process looks like here on Navajo Nation as we move forward with some of the state legislators convening in January. We'll need to have a discussion on what is going to be our ask for our state representatives. And now that the federal government is off of their shutdown, there's always an opportunity, if they pass a budget, to ask for appropriations and to help sustain some of the work that we're doing specifically with the Data Institute so that they could have their staff and help support this initiative beyond this 25th Navajo Nation Council. So what are some of the outcomes that we're looking at? So for policy and advocacy, enact or at least one new effective policy or legislative measure by 2029. So that gives us 4 years, but we have been able to pass some great policy like the Navajo Nation Victims Rights Act. And so the next legislation that we're collectively working on is amending Title 17, which is going through its final review at the Office of the Prosecutor, and they'll be providing an update to their oversight law and order sometime soon. So that is ready to legislate and to enhance some of the criminal code here on Navajo Nation, and especially removing some of the statute of limitations when it comes to major crimes like murder, like rape, like sexual assault on a child. Currently, the statute of limitation on Navajo Nation is 3 years, which includes the time that the federal attorney general's office reviews the case and determines if they are going to prosecute. If they decide to decline the case, and the 3 years has expired, then our statute of limitation, it's concurrent, so it also expires. Also, cases that are not necessarily um, cases can be prosecuted simultaneously, if I'm saying that right. And so our work is to help build up the capacity of the Office of the Prosecutor so that they could continue to build up their major crimes unit and start looking at prosecuting some of our habitual offenders, and to make sure that there's some form of justice for the families if our federal partners are not able to prosecute. In addition, in this work, we're also advocating for what they call I believe it's called a salsa prosecutor. And what that means is, here in the Office of the Prosecutor, we will have an attorney, a prosecutor, that will be able to assist with some of these federal cases, and and it will just be another way to enhance um, federal prosecution of some of these cases. So that is a huge initiative because the Navajo Nation has not incorporated the federal tribal law and policy. I'm sorry, am I saying that right? Talola, Tribal Law
An Order Act.
and Order Act. Thank you. Um, we don't exactly know why Navajo Nation didn't incorporate or sign on, but we are seeing how like Poskayaki and others who have signed on are able to expand the prosecution of, let's say, non-natives who are committing crimes on Navajo. The last time I checked, uh, on data of non-Navajo or non-native offenders, um, at that time, that data was not being collected. And that was a concern because we should have that internally collected. So I hope that that is now being collected by Navajo Nation law enforcement. Let's see. So I just want to say, Yat A Janet, thank you for joining us. I'm just going over this outcome, but yeah, let's if we want to start having some discussions in terms of outcomes, what we're trying to do is just take a glimpse of what we've done as a task force and where we're going and what our community representatives and task force members want to be part of these initiatives as we move forward. Did you want to give us some insight on some of that policy and advocacy that you think we should be um, supporting and asking Navajo Nation to incorporate?
Hi, good morning, everybody. I think if I'm not, you guys can correct me, but I think the policy that you just brought up, Madam Crotty, is one that also opens up more funding to the tribes who sign on. It also helps all the different programs that are available to help Navajo Nation to have more victim advocacy also. I believe so, because I remember wondering how come Navajo doesn't have a pot of money from certain funding streams. And I think this is why, is because Navajo hasn't signed on to that. And that's a big not a big I think different tribes, like you said, like Pasqua, it has the ability to do all of that. So that's my understanding at least. But as far as yes, I would totally support um, enacting new policy or legislative measures in that regards. So thank you.
Appreciate that feedback. I wanted to ask, Tatiana, do you know if the Law and Order Committee is having any conversations about Taloa or some of their, I haven't seen what their strategic plans are going to be for this fiscal year, but if you have any insight or if Lorraine's on the call, that would be good to know so that we could complement what the Oversight Committee has envisioned and it also helps us since we have limited staff with the veto and the reduction. We're just all trying to do the best we can, but it because we don't have enough of the executive programs assisting, it's more of our community representatives and legislative that are doing this work. So could you help me understand what Law and Order Committee is doing, and maybe we can make some recommendations when they're planning their federal advocacy?
Good morning, Shada. I know somewhere in my notes I did hear about Tola in Law and Order Committee because we are starting the public safety booklet, getting all of our information together from all the other divisions and departments. But I'll let Laureen kind of add a little bit more of that. Um, but I want to say yes, that they are having that conversation.
Okay, Shema Yejia Lorraine, Ms. Spencer, as advisor, do you have anything you could add or do you have what the Oversight Committee is going to focus on this fiscal year?
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. So the Law and Order is working on the booklet, the public safety booklet, and they're still working on it as of now. And like Madam Chair, I know yesterday she was talking with Tatiana of updating some of those that will be in the booklet. But As far as I know, I have not heard or anything about the Tribal Law and Order Act
Mhm.
yet. So I
Okay.
think that's still in the works too with the public safety booklet. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate it. When is Chief Prosecutor Vernon Jackson going to present to the committee?
He indicated that he will be available on, we have a special meeting on December 1st,
Okay,
and then he'll be on the agenda for December 1st for the Title 17 amendments.
perfect. Is that scheduled to be at the Law and Order Conference Room?
Yes,
And will that be live stream?
it should be. Yeah, it's a special meeting. Yeah, so it should
Perfect.
be.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna add that onto my calendar if I could be there in person. If not, and I'm not able to, I will definitely listen to the live stream. And if you could send us the notes, the Zoom notes from that meeting, that would be great. It looks like all of the committees use the Zoom AI feature. So if you could send those notes and summaries, that'll help me and others, identify core areas and identify what the committee is working on. So we could just identify them, identify the committee, and Chair Charles Newton as a task force member um, on some of these strategies that we've included and some of the outcomes so that they're, recognize their work and shared partner in the prevention of our missing and murdered dinner relatives. Is that something you could do, Ms. Spencer?
Yes, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Let me know if you need any support on that request. So I
Okay.
am requesting, and do you have a copy? Did Chief Prosecutor give you the copy of the latest Title 17 amendments?
Just in a brief summary, yeah,
Okay.
I can send
Okay.
that to you all.
All right. So I can request um and hopefully he explains, it has been a lengthy process. We have been trying to amend Title 17, which is Navajo Nation Criminal Code. And looking at my notes, yeah, this started back 10 years ago, 2015, when then Attorney General Ethel Branch, Judicial Branch, and others started having these Navajo Nation Public Safety Summits. So it's taken this long to get where we're at now. Um, and so I look forward to that discussion, and hopefully we could make some recommendations how either annually or every other year we re-examine Title 17 so that we're not waiting, you know, 10 years. And I'm not sure the last time, I know it's piecemealed, but this is so this would be a good time to always, like, I want to look at the Navajo Nation Victim Rights Act and how it's been used by advocates, law enforcement, and the courts. And there might be a need to make some amendments because it's not clear how they are using that act when it comes to our missing and murdered relatives. When a family member calls, um, there's always room for improvement. So thank you for that feedback. Do we have anyone else on the call that wanted to give some feedback on the policy and advocacy aspect of it? And is there anyone on the call that wants to be assigned um, to a component of the, what am I trying to say? To the policy and advocacy section? You could also use the chat feature if you're more comfortable, or you can send us an email to Ms. Spencer and our team and let us know. We'll be sharing all of this, I always call it a logic model, and it'll start breaking down tasks so you could see what areas will need support. As I mentioned in the last few meetings, the impact on the line item veto on legislative are budget has been reduced by 92%. And so we are severely impacted. And so the time that my time has been, impacted. So I'm asking the task force to look at some of these action items and to volunteer to support moving forward because I was just being honest and saying some of the assignments that I wanted to complete now will be delayed because of the reduction of our budget. And so I'm not able to participate in some of, the local conferences or other things that require travel because of our budget. And I'm definitely not able to do any type of some of the advocacy work that we wanted to do, like go down to Pasque. They had invited us to, see how their team um, has enhanced their courts to meet the need. And I know like San Carlos Apache had wanted us to go down and help them develop a missing persons task force. And so I'm really relying on our partners that are from other tribes in Arizona to help provide that support in the interim. And we did get the support of the Attorney General's office representative, their tribal liaison, and who's going to help us start coordinating the law enforcement side since we've had some, severe challenges on getting our Navajo Division of Public Safety to some of these interagency law enforcement meetings and having them be part of the conversation. Uh, our core thing is at this time, it is not clear who is the Navajo Nation contact when it comes to Ash and Mike, Amber Alert in Indian Country. That should be transparent. I've looked at the website. We've asked for Navajo Nation Police Department PIO to join the calls. And so there's just still a lot of work that needs to be done when it comes to the law enforcement side of the nation. Luckily, we have partners who are willing to assist, and that's why we're continuing to making sure that the task force is fully aware of what are our strategies and goals and how we could collectively work together. So that is on the policy advocacy side. Let's see. We are going to go to the family support. So let's shut it. Are you able to see the screen or did you want me to read this out? Okay, let me read it out. So family support ensure 80% of chapter houses have access to victim advocacy resources by 2029 and increase knowledge by 50% through MMDR toolkit trainings. Should I able to unmute? Zenaba, did you have any update on the family support aspect?
No, I don't have any updates at this time.
Okay, thank you. So that is a critical component to the work that we do. I wanted to see Shanelle, and I did see that Tanya just joined the call. So let me ask Shanelle, Miss Shepherd, what so you did we kind of talked about this at length. So this focuses on chapter houses, having access to victim advocacy resources and increasing knowledge per the toolkit. I wanted to um, just echo some of the former conversations from the family that it's beyond the training. What are some of the resources that we can advocate for, like for support, while a family's in crisis looking for their relative, and then some of the long-term care that we could provide to families?
In terms of the cases that we've had referred to us, usually we don't get them until a lot later down the road. And so in terms of what their immediate needs are, looks very different. About I'd say 95% of the cases that we've been referred, they're long-term cases, and so they're looking for additional funding in regards to searching. And communication is a big thing. And one of the things that I think we need to stress to law enforcement, anybody else that has working with any families, is no news is news. And so just that fact of touching base is going to be really important. But for when they do have some answers, it's going to be the communication needs to be stepped up, and whether it's coming from what medical examiner they're utilizing. We've had issues to where there's no response, or they don't know where their relative is. So figuring out and probably communicating with the ME's offices that the Navajo Nation does utilize is going to be super important. When relatives are found, one of the things is bus passes, and access to that. Some family members recognize that there are it's better for them to go get their relative themselves, so funding for those pieces. And it's hard for when you're working in the grant world, you can't just go give somebody cash, or gas cards are really hard depending on what type of grant you're operating under. So there are some restrictions that are kind of really hard to work around. So those are some of the immediate needs that have been my agency has experienced and noticed working through with some of the families. But it all leads back to how law enforcement is responding and what that communication really looks like at that time, and that's really what they're looking for. And then outside of that, it's going to be money for search, help with searches, and usually a little funding for to support the searches, or to go find the relatives themselves. And I'll turn it over to Tanya from here.
Good morning. I think our experience working with families who have a missing loved one, I guess it all varies. I guess just depending on the situation. If their loved one is currently missing, they're actively trying to find their missing loved one. In those events, sometimes, equipment is needed for the family. Sometimes law enforcement, they're only there for the day, or they're not even there yet. There's no immediate I guess investigation or anything like that. So it's kind of left up to the family. And then sometimes, we do give them resources as far as like, four corner search and rescue, things like that. But sometimes, they're not able to respond because of, like I said, all cases are different. So in that event, families start like, where do we start? We don't even have like drones, some of the information that's coming in could be genetic, but they do want to follow up on those. But they don't have the equipment that they need to do those, such as like, ATV or drone. I think drones is a big one that's always requested as well. And then sometimes in an event, lodging. Let's say a family member went missing, or family come back to the reservation, try to look for family. Lodging is a big thing. I know through our program, it's all temporary. We try to go by a guideline because of the funding that we have. And so we're only can purchase up to like 2 days, depending on the situation. But lodging is a big one. Fuel is another big one. Families who want to continue looking for the loved one, hang up flyers, they're needing fuel as well during those searches. Let's see what else is there. Burial assistance is always a big one. Communication is needed. Sometimes we get families who don't have that communication from law enforcement, and like Laurel mentioned, they don't know where to go, which OME to follow up with. And so in that event, we end up, trying to look for their loved one and where they're at. So I think that's just from our experience working with these families. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot more, but those are something I can think of at the top of my head. So thank you.
Okay, appreciate it. We're just trying to make sure we have all of the needs that we Andrea, please, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. Well, what Rel and Tanya highlighted, I just like to kindly add that families express the need in the interim due to maybe law enforcement not being available or when they're being assigned to other cases. How can they keep their case going? And one area that a lot of them have expressed and have difficulties looking for is private investigation of who and where and how much it's going to cost them. More importantly, can they be trusted? And it was already mentioned, but also as well, expenses for searches, such as food, flyers, lodging, gas. A lot have also expressed wanting to go to the MMIP events, but gas, lodging, and food is another factor. And case updates, any updates just is also another concern. I think another important area we have talked about and possibly utilizing chapter houses is also just more education and training with families on how certain processes work so that they too have an understanding of their part and what's needed from them, from agencies or from law enforcement. Those that do have a CI may be requesting a certain item, document, or something related to their case. I think them also understanding how critical or important their response to these requests are as well, and then the timeframes it takes to process their requests and their needs. I think that's a big need is again more education and training and awareness on how various processes work at the law enforcement level, at the investigative level or OMI level. There seems to still be some confusion about what the process is. And also, there has been expressed for healing circles. If they do have missing loved ones that have been located and it's either related to substance abuse, alcohol abuse, or mental health, they're continuing to struggle of how to keep their loved one in a safe place in these rehabilitative services or someplace nearby where they're able to remain there without having to check themselves in and out. And also just for their own mental well-being and physical well-being, if they do have a missing or murdered loved one, beyond their cases, what is available as far as their grief goes. Thank you.
Shada, you're
Hello?
still muted.
Thank you. Sorry. So Kobe, those are areas that you could help us identify. I know you sent out some information about talking circles, but this would be good to have, maybe a monthly, or let's start off like weekly integration on areas that we could, that through our networks, we can make sure the community knows of events across Navajo Nation, especially if there's challenges getting families there. We'll see. I would need help looking into if some type of transportation could be included. We've asked, I know through Operation Rainbow Bridge, our advocates were the only source of transportation for those survivors. And so there's really not a mechanism here for Navajo Nation programs other than, I think, Deltec senior centers who pick up elders. There should be some kind of, in the planning of these events, a way to make sure that they have a transportation to the events, whether it's if it's, let's say, I've seen travel stipends. Maybe that's a way if some of the funding is limited. Uh, Help me understand what are some opportunities when it comes to transportation. I just wanted to say that off the bat. I did see that Salatsa's not able to speak right now. But thank you for listening. And Elorina Shamayeje, thank you for joining. This is your first time attending, but I just wanted to give you the floor to introduce yourself to the task force and our community representatives. This is more of a leadership meeting, so we don't, have to have an agenda or take actions. This is the time that we gather to move forward on our initiatives. This is being live streamed at the request of some of the family members who are unaware of the work of the task force. I had relied on some of the executive programs and the Office of the President and Vice President to make sure they were sharing information. So my role as a chair now is to ask for the live stream, and so families can go back to either the YouTube and make sure that they're able to see what the task force is doing at their time, and hopefully how we mark the videos and start creating these shared documents that we could get support since, at legislative, our budget was reduced by 92%. And so that is impacting some of the work, and we'll have to lean on our network at this time. But please introduce yourself and let me know if you have any insight on how we could support families of our missing and murdered loved ones. Let's see, you'd have to do *6. Okay, we're not hearing you. Are you able to do *6? Okay, what we could do is we'll come back to you. But Janet, I saw that you're unmuted. Did you have something to add into the conversation?
No, I didn't know I unmuted. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
That was a
Appreciate
mistake.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. Anybody else on the call want to give some insight? I want to thank Gina Roanhorse for joining us, our federal partner. We're having a conversation about what you see on the screen. This is being live streamed as we're going to open up these conversations to the community so that they're aware of how we're working together. We just talked about, we're on the outcome side of the slide, briefly talked about policy and advocacy. This may be, I think, something that you could help us with is getting some more information about Talola and why Navajo Nation at that time did not volunteer or did not opt in because of some of the like they're able to prosecute non-native offenders and what that would look like to build up our capacity here for the Navajo Nation Office of the Prosecutor. We're also looking at if you know of any other federal laws or policies that are happening or being created to help enhance this work. Welcome back from the federal shutdown. I'm glad you look like you're doing well. And so as you catch up, if you could help us with that, kind of letting us know. I don't know. I know that I'm preparing to give testimony to the Office of Violence Against Women. That was because of the shutdown, that was rescheduled to January. But like I was mentioning earlier, our budget has been reduced by 92%. So there's going to be areas that Navajo Nation will not have their voice, but I hope they have a virtual option. At the very least, we could provide some written testimony. But could you help us just in your insight where what we're looking at in terms of policy and advocacy? And I'd like to get your in in your networking, what are some of the family support initiatives, because it does look like funding is limited to our missing families, and especially when it comes to the long term. Gina, Shade, you have the floor.
Hi, everyone. Good morning and Yad. I'm glad to see everybody. It's been a long 40 plus days of shutdown. I was told not to volunteer, not to check my email. So it's been a real different experience for me. However, I'm back. I can answer your question just roughly about TLOA. So basically, as the Navajo Nation, you would have to change your entire judicial system from the judicial branch to public defender to the prosecutor's office if you want to do that prosecution of the non-natives. So basically, your judges have to be they have to have a JD, Juris Doctorate. They have to be bar licensed. And as you know, in judicial branch, that's not necessarily true for a lot of our judges. They come up from the ranks, I guess, for the prosecutor's office. And while they have real lived experience prosecuting cases in the court, many of them may not have the JD. So you would have like sort of the idea that if you do get judges that have the law degree in that and the licensure, they may not speak full Navajo. They may not know Navajo. So those are some things to think about. Then you need a robust public defender system. You also need licensed attorneys to be public defenders. So Navajo Nation would have to push money into the public defender system because that has to be robust. And then also money into prosecutor's office where they also have to have licensure. So, and then the jury system would have to be very active. So there should be more money going to the judicial branch, I guess, in terms of um, getting a jury system that works for non-natives. There's some things in TLOA that talk about that. So some tribes, like I know one Pueblo in New Mexico, they changed their entire system. They went from a traditional court to a Western model in order to do that. And they had to make a decision as to whether they wanted to change their whole system for the number of non-natives that they wanted to prosecute. So if you do have like a large number of non-natives who are constantly coming through your judicial system, then that would be the decision of the tribal nation. So one of the consultants that worked with one of the Pueblos said, be very careful if you want to change as a sovereign nation, if you want to change your traditional courts into Western, fully blown Western models, that's up to you. But know the consequences of that, which is, you have to sustain that system with funding and a workforce. So it's possible that the Pueblo, I don't know for sure, but it's possible that the Pueblo that I don't remember exactly which one. They were by Santa Fe. So it's possible that they may have a need for it. And they have a large number of non-natives that they wanted to prosecute. So you have to balance that as tribal leaders and think about it. And that may be the reason why Navajo Nation hasn't opted into those provisions, which is really your choice. You know, do you want to continue working on your own sort of justice system where it embodies fundamental law, um, all the all the provisions in Title I under fundamental law? Do you want to have Navajo speaking that use Navajo culture in other cases, not just criminal cases? Because there are civil cases, there are other domestic violence cases, like on the civil docket. So those are some things to think about. And I know that some tribes have said, no, we don't really want to. And then you have those tribes in the United States that are kind of the 280 states where they're already part of like a Western model system. Or the states are taking over the criminal part of it. So I would say research it, and then Tribal Law and Policy Institute, they have a lot of great materials. They have bench cards and all kinds of different things. And I would also sit down with the Chief Justice or some of the judges in your discussion, because they're the ones that would have to be part of this. I mean, do you want to sort of retire all of them, because most of them don't have, you know, the JD. And so, you know, there's other ways to go around this as well. And I know this has been a sticking point for Navajo, is to change Title VII, where you can allow judges not to speak fluent Navajo. And that is a sticking point for many of the discussions with judicial branch. So it's really how you want to approach this, and do you have a large population of non-natives that you want to prosecute? The other thing that you can build up in the meantime is the special AUSA program. You can have some of your tribal prosecutors right now develop a partnership with our office to do special types of prosecutions in federal court. So those are like jury trials. And I know that the young man from, I call him young man because I'm older, young man from Kayenta, I think he's still there. I forgot his name. He was interested, and he came to our office during one of our, we had a little gathering here, and he was talking about it. So that would be Vernon Jackson, you know, sitting down with Vernon and working out like a special AUSA initiative to do those kinds of prosecutions. The other thing is, you know, our office here in Arizona, all of the AUSAs do Indian country cases. I would sit down with Kyoko Patterson and have a discussion about that program, meaning bringing in more resources to do the prosecutions. So in the meantime, your criminal investigators and your patrol section for Navajo PD, if they're going to do those kinds of cases, they need more training, more knowledge, more equipment. So it's those are some other things to think about, not just victim services, but beefing up your patrol section to do evidence collection, doing the, what do you call it? The technological, where you ping people's cell phone. There's a certain way to do that and have that entered as evidence, do search warrants into Facebook and all of those different types of social media to do cases. So I can have a discussion with Kyoko in the criminal section here in Arizona and then New Mexico, and see what we can do to help with more training. But it all comes down to, you know, thinking out loud and really thinking about whether you as a sovereign nation want to change your whole system to do these kinds of cases. I hope I've been helpful, and I know I've put a lot, but I haven't been talking to people in the last 40 days, so I'm just like a chatterbox here. So thank you so much, everyone.
No, I appreciate it, Shada, because how your experience working for Navajo Nation, judicial branch, and executive, what we want to do is just map out what we need for the nation's criminal justice system. And then at that point, we can re examine how we want to move forward with Taloa. But I really haven't seen that mapping out of the system. So this gets us engaged and saying why, because families will ask us, like, why wasn't that person prosecuted? Why wasn't our case or our evidence processed? And so we do have a lot of building up, but if we can explain that to the community, because public safety is one of the top 5 areas that our communities have asked leadership to address, especially when it comes to funding. So they support the funding of public safety. We just need a plan to get us there. And we've been waiting for, executive programs to develop that plan. But what we're going to do now, moving forward with this task force, with the Law and Order Committee and the council, is what does that look like so we could build up public safety on our terms as a community and how we want to integrate, but how we could fund that. And that's something that I'm looking at right now. There was an initiative maybe 8 years ago to fund the criminal justice system with about, like $52 million from the RAMA settlement. Unfortunately, that was voted down at the council at that time. That was under the 23rd council. So now we have a different council. And we have a lot of support from the public. So I think that's what they're demanding of us, and that's something that the task force recommend, not only from the families but from the communities who want to feel safe. So we're recording these meetings, and now with the AI technology, what's really nice is when the meetings notes come back to us, we see the action items, and that's what we're looking at in terms of what we need to do next. So if we're not able to do it now in this quarter or next quarter, at least it's on our radar. And any help that you can provide in your capacity would be helpful because as you've been on lockdown, or I'm sorry, not lockdown, shutdown. For Navajo Nation side, we also are dealing with some of budget constrictions here, and so we just are. It is impacting the work of the task force. So my call out to everyone is how can we all help each other? And we're hoping with these visuals and developing documents that everybody can help in their own way because we have to do this collectively. There is a representative from the Office of President and Vice President who specifically assigned to assist our missing and murdered families. And we're just going to continue to request that support from the executive branch so that we can move forward. So appreciate that. Did you want to have any follow-up on that? Or you're good?
Yeah, the other thing to think about too is the corrections, your prison system. I say prison, like long-term sentences, is that viable for, and then, these civil rights attached to everyone in the justice system, and you got to be able to have that. So if everything's budget wise, you know, there has to be a real big discussion about funding, because the grants that come through the federal system are just very highly regulated, and then once it's over, it's over. There's no sustainability too, in a sense, unless you have like a group of grant writers and coordinators that can really push that money through. So I hear you about the funding. I'm just getting back to everything, but I'm here. I'm with you guys, and I'll do everything I can to help as much as possible. But thank you so much for your time and effort.
Appreciate you. Thank you. Andrea, in the chat, did you want to speak about your reflection on last week's listening event?
Sure, yeah. The event a was a really good opportunity for families to just speak, and that's really where they left the event to be, is just families speaking and expressing whatever they wanted, and the panel just listened and took notes and asked follow-up questions for what families needs. However, there was a very low turnout. The day I went was on Friday, and from the time I got there till I left, I think there was 4 families that came and spoke. And one of the input was that and this was by families and those that work within the field who were present there, was the location. They had the event downtown, which was very difficult. I would say it wasn't very accessible, just because it's downtown, and you have very streets going different directions, one ways, and also you had to park in a parking structure that required payment, and then you had to walk to the building of where the event was located. Once you got to the building, it was it had good signage, so you can find the room, but just getting to it was difficult. And again, a lot of the families that had spoken there, their concerns again were getting case updates from law enforcement, what their next steps are as far as to include, prosecution, any legal ramifications they may have, or any legal ramifications they can take to get their cases moving forward. Particularly for Arizona, there were concerns as to what the task force there is supposed to be doing. There were concerns of families, including agencies, interagencies, having difficulties connecting with anyone with the task force, about connecting on resources, connecting to get families' questions answered as far as their cases go, like who to connect them with. And that included trying to get a hold of Valora as well. So those were the 2 primary concerns from family standpoint. And one thing the task force made it clear, in which I think the families who were there and the people who work within the scope of MMIP also appreciated, was that they made it aware that the task force is not involved in direct services. It was mentioned, though, that why wasn't that brought to the forefront when the task force was created, because it would have, I guess, lessen a lot of the confusion and I guess animosity toward what is being done, and what kind of work, and why is there no transparency? Why were all these meetings closed to families? Why was it hard to reach anyone? So they cleared up quite a few with that statement, and the families did appreciate, that they were told that. They just wish they would have told that and made that clear from the beginning, so they had an understanding of what their work and purpose was. Um, Again, for the most part, I did like the fact that they just let the family speak, and that's all the family did was speak, and they were able to tell how they feel, what they need, what their struggles are, what worked for them, and the panels just listened and took notes. They did say they're going to take this back to the governor's office and see what the next steps are. The other topic of discussion was the turquoise alert, that there's still confusion, questions about why certain cases were entered, why certain cases aren't entered, confusion about the criteria, and how the turquoise alert will work or is working with the Navajo Nation alert system. So that was basically what was discussed.
Appreciate it. Thank you for the feedback. And so something that we would want to do, Tatiana, is to also make sure that this task force is not a direct service provider, although we do have individuals on the task force that provide those services. And I like that on our website we provide that information. So that would also be good for all of the relatives who are not familiar with the MMDR task force and the work that we do here collectively, and having our strategies, our outcomes very clear. But we do have a component for family support, and we could continue to expand this area and look at how we could provide some type of partnership or support for families who are searching. That, to me, that sounds like the critical area. We did recommend, some funding to Four Corners Canine Search and Rescue, and hope that funding is available soon. But also looking with and speaking with our advocates to understand some of the funding challenges, and then what are ways, either working with other partners or with using Navajo Nation dollars to help support for continued searching. So thank you. I appreciate that. Mhm. Is there anyone else on the call that wants to talk about what could be some of our outcomes when it comes to family support?
Delegate Crotty, this is Samlatza.
Oh, Yati Shada, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'm able to speak now, so I just want to give a quick update. We're definitely working on building up the victim advocacy directory, so that we can at least pull all those resources into one document, similar to the toolkit. Just have one document that can be shared with families and all of our partners. And then also getting more of the toolkit training out to the communities and chapters, working with the MMDR coalition on a plan for that. And then also just working on, I'm not sure about the transitional housing. I think that might be something we could revisit. I know before we did have some partners working on that, and we haven't really come back to transitional housing, I think. So that might be another discussion to bring up at one of the core team meetings. And I know Elrina and some of the other folks who've been working with the McKinley County and the state of New Mexico on transitional housing might have updated information to share with us. And then I think the other thing we said was the healing circles, to find ways that we can team up with partners who are doing healing circles, talking circles, mental health support for families, grief counseling, and things like that. So those are some areas that we're identifying for that piece on family support. And we're also coordinating with the Violence Prevention Task Group for DAP to also help with this task. So that's just some areas that we've talked about.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Shadit. Excuse me. I appreciate that you were able to join the call. We're all doing the best we can. And so there was a request from Tatiana in the chat. Just go ahead and send her that directory and we could add it to our resource page. So I'm gonna we'll start.
Chair, sorry.
Go ahead.
We're working on, that's one of our tasks we're working on for.
Oh, okay.
The
okay.
Yeah, for this logic model.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you for the clarification. So we'll wrap up the discussion of this call with the data. And so our outcome is data and solutions, nonprofit publication of data trends and prevention and intervention efforts by 2027 and annually thereafter. So Dr. Gonzalez, did you want to give the team here an update on the work that you're doing with the MMDR database that will be housed at Navajo Technical University? And I hope in these conversations you're hearing more from the family's perspective, and so we could continue to see, or how we collect the data, what that's going to look like. And so you have the floor, Dr. Gonzalez.
Thank you, Delegate Crotty. So the three major activities that are tied to Navajo Tech, one includes the development of the institute or the research institute that Navajo Tech is moving forward on. They're in the process of hiring personnel to support the MMDR organization or activity on Navajo. There are positions that are currently being posted, as well as there are candidates being interviewed. The second major activity is the development of the database application. The development is proceeding. We're in the process of completing a document associated with the application to support a prototype that we have a small team working on to demonstrate some of the functionality as the scope of work gets completed. We're expecting the next 2 to 3 weeks to have some version of a prototype available for a small group to start looking at, saying, is this an effective use of our interpretation of the needs for the MMDR community? And then the third activity, and this was started last week, there are two things in this category. One of them is I've agreed, NTU's agreed to support the development of additional work in building a portal or a presence beyond the database application to support MMDR activities and operations as it relates to NTU in support of the Navajo Nation's efforts. And then the second part of that element is to look at cross-state funding opportunities for MMDR activities with Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah. So that's a very high level series of next steps over the next month or so that NTU is working on. And I'll stand for questions.
Sure. Are there any questions from the task force for Dr. Gonzalez and community members? One thing I wanted to ask Shadajina Roanhorse is, there's some new language in federal grants that I've asked Navajo Department of Justice to look at, and that's the language, I can't remember exactly, but it's something like we're agreeing to,
Sure,
something about like data and we'll be providing all of that information upon request from the federal government, and also looking at something when it talks about like something like where we're attesting that this is not a DEI program or focus. I'm not sure if that's come up in any of your circles, but we have been hesitant to apply for some federal funding because we do not know exactly how that will impact not only tribal sovereignty but data sovereignty, and like what is the intent. So I'm not sure if that's been in any of this discussions, or if you could ask some of your partners about that language in federal grants. I've talked to other nonprofits and they've just decided like not um to not to apply for federal grants until that language is taken out. Could you give me any insight, or could you look into that matter for us?
Okay, well, I can speak generally about data, having done grants for Navajo Nation. So they have to report back to Congress on how they use those funds, how applicants and awardees have used the funds. So sometimes, like for example, healing to wellness courts, they have different metrics, like date of entry, how many months a person was in the wellness court or drug court, and then it goes, they have their data people give you the performance measures. For the DEI, I don't have any experience with that, but I will check on that for you and get back to you. My understanding is that Indian country was a priority, and that the administration did want tribes to apply for these grants, but I will get back to you and figure out what the specific issue is, and I'll get back to you guys.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, these are just areas that we would want to make sure that fits our requests, especially when it comes to this database that we're developing, and we just want to make sure that it's in line with our values and how the needs are moved forward. The last thing I wanted to mention, Dr. Gonzalez, we do have an enterprise here on Navajo Nation. It's called Dene Development Corporation. They're our IT contractor. They do a lot of federal contracting, and it sounds like they are interested to talk to Dr. Arviso about their technology and um, how they store their data. So I just let them know I'm not, that's not my world of, data storage, cyber security, all of these different things I'm not familiar with. So if we could, I did invite them to our Wednesday calls, and I will let the data team know when they're available to meet. Or I just think it would be more of a technical conversation with Dr. Aviso, because I'm not sure how NTU is set up and their whole data structure. And I'm not, I think I had read somewhere that they have data storage similar to NTUA, but I'm not sure. Would you know anything about that, Dr. Gonzalez?
I actually have, I've had some initial information, initial conversations with NTU regarding the use of other services, including the one you mentioned. What I would, I'm glad I'm glad to have the conversation with them regarding their participation in the project and getting direction from Navajo, um, um, how you want to accomplish your goals regarding data sovereignty and access to these resources. I would also suggest that we invite the epicenter folks in that conversation, since one of the dependencies we have on the project is to coordinate data access with the epicenter, so that if information is needed from MMDR and MMDR database, It's available for the Epicenter for some of their DNA action plan requirements as well. So if again, glad to have the conversation. It certainly is appropriate, but I would also suggest we invite the Epicenter into that discussion as well at some point in time, if not, the first couple of calls.
Okay, appreciate that feedback. Have you been able to connect with the Epicenter?
I have
Get them to a Wednesday call?
I've received a follow-up email last week. I'm working on scheduling that one-to-one call with them this week or next week.
Okay, and any feedback from the Navajo Nation Police Department and their data team?
We're in the process of coordinating those calls. We're trying to get two very busy people on the same call, and it's been delayed. But we know it's on task, and we're planning to have that call soon as well.
Perfect. And have you talked to Navajo Nation CI data team, or is that something we still need to organize?
We have. I was not aware of it. I would not. I'll be honest here. I didn't know that Navajo had a cyber security team. I'm looking forward to that conversation. Navajo Tech needs to talk with them as well in general for all the other services.
Okay.
We are, as an information item, we are talking with the Navajo Nation IT organization regarding connectivity on Navajo and providing some options for route diversity and providing better services to the Navajo Nation organizations on Thursday in Gallup. So if Alex Largy is involved at all in the cybersecurity group, we can raise it there. If I can get a contact for the cybersecurity group, I will contact them immediately. That's a critical issue, obviously.
Okay, appreciate it. And then in addition to police department, I think if we just understand all of Navajo Nation public safety, the data they collect and provide, because they do have to report back to the federal government. So we just need to know what that looks like, and that would also be helpful. I know the Law and Order is creating that public safety booklet, so we might have some existing contacts that we could connect you with.
Oh, fantastic. I'm certainly we're going to ask them for MMDR related data access. That's the primary intent of the call. I'm glad to ask them for additional information requests and to route them to the appropriate group in the project, whether it's through the DNA Action Plan data group or other operations that are appropriate. We're glad to ask. I think our focus is MMDR, specific MMDR data, but clearly, to your point, it might be helpful if they were willing to release additional details. I know that they are looking at a new system that they've been talking about. So I suspect they're involved with some either internally or externally trying to work out an RFP or some procurement vehicle. So again, it could make good sense to have that discussion sooner than later.
Okay, appreciate it. And so what I would like to ask Ms. Spencer, we're going to get ready for our December Thursday public education task force meeting. So December 11th will be our only meeting on a Thursday because of the holidays. And if you could reach out to the FBI analyst and ask him to provide a report or an update on the data trends and what he's been able to observe and his partnership with Navajo Nation Public Safety, and how I think we had a meeting with him. It was during the summer. So I think it's a good time to connect with him in terms of any updates that he may have. Or Dr. Gonzalez, when did we meet? Actually, we have met with the FBI analyst somewhat recently. So in the I think, go ahead.
Yeah, no, we talked to the FBI. It was in early October, I believe.
Okay, so early October, right? So summer, I talked to him. We get kind of quarterly updates, but he works directly with New Mexico Department of Justice, and so I would like to have him present on Navajo Nation specific information that that he's covering and give us just his update. Do you have that contact information, Shiaja, Miss Spencer?
Madam Chair, no, I don't. And also, I can't remember what his name was.
Okay. Dr. Gonzalez?
Maybe he can just send it to me.
I'll drop it in the chat, or do you want me to send an email?
You could drop it in the chat. Okay, it looks like we're at a time check 9:58. We'll go through some of the other outcomes in our next meeting on Tuesday, November 25th. I know that is a holiday week. So let's collectively, do we want to meet on the 25th or do we want to reconvene December 2nd? Okay, how do we do this? Let's see, okay. So not seeing anything in the chat. What we'll do is we'll plan to have a call next Tuesday, the 25th, knowing that it is a holiday week for some, and we'll just try to do the best we can in identifying where we're at. So next week, we'll talk about infrastructure and that's securing funding to enhance judicial data tracking. We might want to change that, not just judicial tracking, but other areas, intercoordinated case management and law enforcement training by 2027. Oh, that might be like Justware and how judicial and executive communicate, but I know they also communicate through Justware. I think it's with also the Division for Children and Family Services. So if anybody has a contact or an update on how those three entities work together, that would be great. Number 5, interagency collaboration. Ms. Spencer, Shiaji, if you could really reach out to the other task force members from the executive branch, we would need their participation and the judicial branch. So this is an opportunity for them to update if their current selected task force members are not able to attend, then we would need an update on who's going to attend on their behalf, because we would need this collaboration. And I'll look through the budget on the legislative concerns that I created, which will hopefully get some of the programs here to the table, as it will impact their future allocation of Navajo Nation dollars. And then number 6 is the data sharing. Hopefully by that time we have what some of these agreements would look like, and we'll talk about sustainability. So appreciate you all on the call. Some of the updates, maybe if we could reach out to Detective Begay and just see if she could provide us any updates and request that the texts and alerts continue, because that does help us with some of our partners to make sure that all of our missing relatives who are reported there's someone actively looking for them. So appreciate all of you. Is there any other questions or concerns before we end today's call?
Shetta, just a real quick question. For our Thursday call, are we going to meet on the 4th or the 11th?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I thought it's the second Thursday. Is it the first Thursday we meet?
I believe it's going to be the second Thursday, so that's going to be the 11th.
Yes, the 11th. And the request is to have that focus on the FBI analyst, and we could talk about the tribal community response plan. But the focus would be on the analyst report.
Madam Chair, this is
Yeah.
Lorene. So
Mhm.
did you get that email from Valora? He wanted to update the
Yeah,
task
I haven't
force.
seen. Yeah, can you?
Shall I just
Yeah.
add her on then on the 11th? Or do you want her to come to the court team?
Have her, let's see, I think let's have a discussion at the core team, and if she could join our call next week, that would be great. We could have that conversation.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? Okay, who's gonna reach out to Detective Begay?
I can do it.
Okay.
Delegate Crotty, this is Twyla.
Oh yeah,
I did reach out to Detective Begay last week, and she said they were quite busy with some other assignments, but I can reach out again for you.
okay.
Okay.
So I know that, so let her know that because this time may not work for her, but if you can coordinate with her and get updates on the cases, that would be perfect. Because what we would want to know is like the text, are the texts going to be continued? Because that is funded. We just haven't received any new texts in the last 3 weeks. So that's a gap of information. I'm not on socials enough, so I'm not sure if they're posting anything on their Facebook on missing relatives, or anyone who coordinates and monitors that. We would have to get an update. Okay, they are posting on Facebook. So let's use that information because we're not getting a text. So if we could start, Twyla, if you could just start monitoring that, and what's posted onto Facebook should also be a text to the community, and that's why the tribal community response plan is so important. And we'll start going over that on what we need from law enforcement, because we'll start finalizing that section. Shanella, you had your hand up?
I was just going to suggest that the letter come from the task force and give her an outline structure of what to update us on. That way it's a formal request coming from the task force. I don't know if that email was created from for the task force. I think that would be helpful. And then especially if she's not able to attend our weekly meetings or the Thursday meetings to give those updates, then it's something she can work on. I think she did say Fridays are her paperwork days. Maybe
Right.
she can send that over. So if you can draft something that is the information that you're requesting on those weekly basis, that might be a better way of getting something consistently from them.
Okay. All right. Let's work on that formal letter and that information. We've had this discussion for our data team. What we'll do is on our call tomorrow, if I'll need your help to develop what that looks like, and then we could create that formal letter and send that to her, to the missing persons unit. Any other recommendations? And on our end, if we have any advocates that, or Twyla, if you could track the Facebook and how we work with Navajo Missing Persons Unit, that would be great and helpful. Okay.
I just have a question.
Sure.
Last week, we spoke about creating a family subcommittee to review a lot of these and figure out what their priorities are and goals in regards to healing and in their cases overall. I sent out a subcommittee draft to everyone last week. Is that something we're moving forward with, or should I just drop that project?
Oh no, I reviewed that and I think it's definitely needed. And so in our discussion today for family support, my hope is how, Solatsa volunteered to lead that conversation. And so we could have those conversations here at a Tuesday, or if uh, those who want to be involved then can set up their own call. Uh, that's just something we would need to decide. So Salatsa, let me see. I don't know if she had to jump off. but that could be something that we ask.
I'm
So lots
here.
of your,
Can you repeat
okay,
that again?
sure. When did you want to have your family subcommittee meetings? Did you want to keep it on the Tuesday calls, or were you looking at scheduling another time and date?
We've been having them on Fridays.
Okay, so if you could send that
Yeah,
information out on the Friday call for those who are interested, and then they could join. So if you could just send out that calendar invite to
sure.
Lorraine, and then she could send it out, and that could be just information for the working group. Tatiana, yes, we definitely can sponsor gifts through the legislative branch. You could connect with New Mexico Department of Justice. We're hosting an event at Upper Fruitland um, in December. And so that could be any additional information that could be something that the legislative branch can assist with. And Andrea, right, Detective Begay did mention that she's catching up on cases. Um, but the thing is, as she catches up on cases, we need those alerts to be sent out. That was the agreement that has been made to the families that when there is a relative reported missing, that a text will be sent out. And so public safety will have to help and assist uh, to get that information out. Just like they put it on Facebook, there should be a way that they also send out those texts because that's through our emergency um, alert system that they are funded to provide this service to all of those who want to receive the text. And they have to text Navajo Nation to 888-777. So, like myself, I'm not on Facebook. I just have to, I try to interact with it to give updates. But the way my Facebook is set up because of the type of threats I've received in the past, it's very challenging. And so I rely on those alerts to um, help and assist with our missing relatives. Yeah. Okay. So let's just work with Twyla and she'll start giving us updates on our Tuesday calls. Okay, Twyla? Just in terms of what you're monitoring on the Facebook and the text, because the request was also to make sure that if Detective Begay is only working on cases from the jurisdiction of Navajo Nation and their flyer only reflects those cases, then as a task force, how can we work um, and provide additional information for all of those relatives who were reported missing off the nation? And also track those cases because my big thing is to make sure that they are getting referred to advocates and they can decide if they want to work with an advocate um, that's funded through the nation, or we do have community family advocates and there are some legal advocates. As long as the family knows that there's resources available, um, could be the first step. And that goes back to the toolkit. And so we might want to the family support team could look at the toolkit and make sure that the process is um, is available, and that's something we could provide to all of the advocates and do some training, virtual training, so they also know how they could use the toolkit to assist the family. I think it was my understanding it was very useful in the case at Red Rock. And so my hope is that families have access to that toolkit and it provides them the information and resources that they need. I think we worked like 3 years on that toolkit. So it would be great to see it, the utilization to help families.
I have a
Okay,
question.
go
I
ahead.
wanted to do the education on the toolkit and the task force work within my own local community. Does the task force need to review what my recommendations are and what I'll be training on, or am I good to move forward with it?
Well, I think you're good to move forward with it, but as a courtesy, if you could provide that information, because the toolkit should be reviewed periodically, and um, unless Zinaba has any other updates, I haven't heard if the toolkit has been updated. Zinaba, do you know?
We have it updated, and as families and our partners are letting us know what information is outdated, we are making those updates. However, we just have not published it onto the website yet. So what's on the website is from our last work sessions, a series of work sessions that we did last spring before we went to Flagstaff for the Northern Arizona law enforcement training. So we can start those work sessions again, but if there, I know a lot of folks have conflicting schedules, so I think the easiest way is just to send an email and we can make those edits on our end. We're just again waiting to get the right software. Because right now the challenge is funding. The current website format is an editable PDF, but we don't have that platform anymore. So once we do post the updated copy that we have, it will not be able for folks online to type. However, folks can still print it and fill it out by hand if needed, but that's just where the delay is currently.
Okay, so if that's a challenge, could you provide a document that we can edit as a shared document, and we could provide that updated version on our resource page right now until NTU can help assist and sustain uh, some of these documents.
We'll have to have our team check for edits before we release what I have. I just don't know if there's any additional information I'm missing. And also we're going to incorporate the victim services directory into that as well. So at the same time, we're updating the resources in the toolkit, but also doing the research for the directory component.
Okay, so what it looks like, because that hasn't been updated since spring of 2024, so that's about 18 months. And I think what we could do, Shanola, with this task force is have that be part of the conversation, and it could be like best practices from the MMDR task force so that it's updated, and we'll make sure that we add when it was last updated and provide that information um, to the community as you're developing some training tools. So that could be something that we could post on our webpage um, for right now to help support the families in the interim.
So a lot of the training, I think, it was the toolkit or the toolkit is developed to be self-explanatory. My training that I developed around it is for chapters and how they can gather and how they can support missing individuals, and then have them teaching them on what they need in regards to local community response, because that's who activates the fastest. And establishing those procedures within the chapter is what I've developed. I'm just using, and I just share the toolkit in there as like, you can utilize this.
Okay,
But so
perfect.
the training is definitely not, I'm not doing anything with the toolkit except providing it for them, and then giving them information on how to convene as a community to respond, and then
Okay.
what some of those best practices are. So I'm not doing anything with the toolkit.
Okay. Would you be able to share that information on one of our Tuesday calls?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, when's a good Tuesday that you think I wouldn't mind reviewing it next Tuesday since it's so
I'm good for
critical
that.
to training.
I'm good with that. I'm ready to. It's just about ready.
Okay, perfect. All right, because then we could provide that on our webpage and it could be something that could be useful right now. I know that we do have the process from Navajo Nation Missing Persons Unit. And maybe that's something we can make sure that we have for families in the interim. Alrighty, is there anything else? Okay, it sounds good. We'll stop here at 10:18. Thank you for, I'm hoping that it's live streamed. And we have a few things here on top. Oh, that was just time remaining. Okay. All right, so we'll end the call. Let me look at the chat real quick. And okay, yeah, more tools, more resources, especially for advocates to know that maybe we just need to streamline like a one pager, just update that one pager at least. This is the path forward for some of the families. Okay, appreciate everybody on the call and your energy to um, help our nation heal from our missing and murdered Diné relatives crisis. And we'll continue to meet and dialogue with each other. Have a great day. Take care of yourself. The weather's changing. Let's make sure we're taking care of one another and just uplift someone and reach out if you need some uplifting. We know that everyone's doing the best that they can, and we'll just work together. Hagonet, we'll see you.